story time. Growing up in the 90s, I had a great aunt named Martha, and she was a wonderful woman. And when I tell you she was one with nature, this woman had up teen wild animals in her yard. Aunt Martha had always taken care of these animals. Didn't even have to have food. They would just come to her. So one day, I'm hanging out with her, and we're shelling butter beans on the back porch, when all of a sudden, one of the most beautiful animals I had ever seen walked up into her backyard. White deer. I had never seen an albino or snow white deer ever before. This deer was absolutely majestic. He had the biggest set of horns we ever saw, big full mane, bright blue eyes, and a big bushy tail. He was gorgeous. So while me and Aunt Martha's jaws are dropped from looking at this beautiful creature, the neighbor walks over and says, "Oh my God, what is that? Let me go get my pew-pew. I have to get it." And Aunt Martha said, "Don't you dare." He said, "Why? It's just going to eat, poop, and die at some point anyways." She said, "Leave it alone. This is their home and their safe place." I said, "Matthew, I've warned you before about this. If you mess with nature here on this property, you know what's going to happen." He said, "Oh, I don't believe your old ghost stories. That don't scare me." She said, "Why won't you just leave it alone? It's just trying to live its life." He said, "Because it's so beautiful, rare, and unique. I think it would look good over my fireplace." Aunt Martha turned and said, "Well, maybe you would look good over my fireplace." So he walks away, and we can tell he's fuming, and she looks at me and says, "He'll be back." It seemed like something more was going on. I just didn't know what it was. I said, "What do you mean? Why would he come back?" She said, "Because he's already seen it. He's not going to be able to let go of this now. He's going to try to unalive that beautiful deer. But we can't let that happen." So we took a bag of corn way out in the woods and lured them away from the backyard. Where we took the deer corn was on her property, on the backside, so this neighbor had no business being over there. Even though we put out that corn, the animals still came back. They always came back. They loved her. We see that beautiful white deer walk up in the backyard again. So the next morning, we're back on the porch, shelling more butter beans, when the neighbor walks over again and says, "Hey, have y'all seen that deer again?" Martha said, "No, we haven't seen nothing today." And Martha said, "Didn't I warn you before about this, and you didn't learn your lesson?" I said, "I'm telling you, this is not the kind of land that you want to hurt these animals. It will come back on you." I said, "Aunt Martha, tell me, why did you say you didn't learn your lesson? What happened before?" She said, "Back when Matthew and his wife first moved here, they were pulling up in their driveway, and Matthew saw this big rabbit hopping across the road. So Matthew gets back in the car, backs out the driveway, floors the gas, and hits the rabbit on purpose. Yeah, he did it just to unalive it. They didn't eat it. They didn't keep the skin. We got nothing out of hurting this rabbit." Well, you can say it's connected or not. I don't know. But 2 weeks later, Matthew himself got hit by a car in the same damn spot. On his day off, Matthew went outside with his coffee to check the mail, and when he walked back up the driveway, his wife backed out of the yard. She was late for work, so she stomped the gas, and she hit Matthew. It didn't unalive him, but he did break his leg. When Matthew got out of the hospital, his wife was rolling him into the house. Aunt Martha walked up and said, "Matthew, I warned you, if you hurt the animals here, they will hurt you back." Matthew said, "Martha, it was an accident. She didn't see me out there. That's ridiculous. Go home." So Martha pulled Matthew's wife over to the side and said, "Look, I'm telling you, if he doesn't stop hurting these animals, this is only going to get worse." Now fast forward to where I'm spending the night with Aunt Martha, and we're sitting on the porch. It's like 6 o'clock in the evening, and we see that beautiful white deer walk up in the backyard again. It's dark, but we can tell it's him because it's a solid white deer. Anyone can spot it. Well, I'm sleeping on the couch, and around 4 a.m., we hear a loud bam, like gunfire. So Martha goes flying out the front door in her housecoat, yelling, "What's going on out here?" And then we see Matthew come walking down the street with his rifle. Martha screams out, "You didn't! Please tell me you didn't hurt that beautiful deer." And Matthew said, "I couldn't get to it, but I got to another one." He had unalived a baby fawn, a little fawn that was just walking around eating with its mother. He said, "That's not all. I got the mama too. We're fixing to go pull her out the woods." She said, "You killed the mother?" And Aunt Martha lost it. "How many times have I warned you? This place is not like other places. You can't mess with the animals here. Treat the land with respect." He said, "Get your crazy ass out of my face and go the fuck home." Martha said, "Well, the same way you drug them deers out the woods is the same way they're going to drag your body out those woods. Watch and see." He said, "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" She said, "You'll see. You just sealed your own fate. Y'all prepare yourselves, because what happened that winter blew my mind." I was staying with Aunt Martha, and we were putting up the Christmas tree when we heard a bunch of ambulances coming down the road. The neighbors we had were all standing out in the road like, "What is going on? What happened?" But nobody knew. So we walked down the road to see what's going on, and that's where we see 3 men dragging Matthew by his feet out the woods, and he's pouring. It turned out early that morning, Matthew had taken his 8-year-old son hunting for the first time. This child had never been before, had never handled a weapon, and didn't know what he was doing. It was a recipe for disaster. The child's walking in the woods behind his daddy. He trips and stumbles over a root, drops the weapon. It goes off, hits Matthew in the back. Matthew looked like a damn strainer. The bullets had spread out from his shoulders down to his waist. Because they had walked so far up in the woods, it took the child damn near 45 minutes to run back home and call 911. It took first responders over 5 hours to find Matthew because they were so deep in the woods. And guess where they found Matthew's body? He was sitting up against a tree beside them old stones where Aunt Martha had taken me before. The little boy told police that was not where the accident happened. He says they were down at the creek. We have no idea how Matthew got from the creek to the stones. You're talking about a damn near hour's walk. How would he have gotten that far with all those injuries? What else is strange? When they did his autopsy, they found these big gashes. It looked like an animal with antlers had been ramming him. There were cuts, bruises, and abrasions, but especially gashes all over his back, shoulders, and the back of his head. It looked like someone had taken a set of deer antlers and just jabbed him repeatedly in his back. It was really sad because Matthew's son, he was just 8 years old. He didn't have any safety, didn't know what he was doing. Matthew had no business giving that child a weapon. And what's so crazy, when this little boy turned 13, he told his new stepdaddy that the day his father died, he saw a white deer before he tripped over the root. And when that little boy said that and it got around the neighborhood, me and Aunt Martha were like, full circle. You cannot tell me that white deer didn't know what the hell he was doing. I know he did. He got Matthew's ass. What really gave me chills was the fact that what Aunt Martha said came true. When she told Matthew, they're going to drag you out of these woods the same way you're dragging these animals out, pouring blood. And that was what happened. My Aunt Martha was one with nature. She's passed on now, but when I tell you, I go outside sometimes, and when I see deer, squirrels, and rabbits, I swear I can feel her. I truly believe she's been reincarnated as an animal, and she's living her best life. And anyone who lives in that part of North Carolina, or my family that knows about this, don't say anything in the comments about where this happened, because we don't want people going down there.